There's an old story about how a university professor wanted to come to understand some of the different Eastern philosophies. And so he went to China and he sought out a Zen master, and they were having tea, and the professor had drunk some of his tea and had set it down, and as they were talking, the Zen master grabbed the teapot and started filling up his cup again. Filling up the professor's cup again. And the tea rose to the lip of the cup and it flowed over, and it filled up the saucer. And again, it flowed over, it overflowed the saucer, and it started to expand on the table. And eventually the professor was like, man, it's full. You can't put any more tea into the cup. And the Zen master just kind of smiled and looked to him and said, this is you. How can I teach you Zen unless you first empty your cup? And that's what we're going to be talking about today. That you need to first empty your cup before you try to add anything else to it. Are you starting with an empty cup, or is your cup already pretty much full? Talking about that on this week, episode number 49 of The Relaxed Male. Hello and welcome to Relaxed Male, a podcast that helps men change their relationship with themselves. I am your host, Bryan, and I am a men's life and mindset coach who is here to help you understand that you don't have to suffer at your own expense. You can live your dream, and I encourage you to set, then pursue your goals. So join me as I change the mindset and attitudes of men so that they can be the leaders of their families and their destinies. Hey man, hello and welcome to Relaxed Male. All right, so this week we're talking about emptying your cup and making sure you start with an empty cup. And what happens? How do you actually empty your cup? What is it that you need to do with that cup, and what is that cup exactly? And so we're going to be talking about that and our question of the week. But before we do, just want to say if you are subscribed to the show, thank you, man. Thank you so much. The show itself is a free show. I don't charge anything for you to listen to it. I don't fill this show up with, 10 minutes of commercials. I do have one sponsor, and that's the Brotherhood of Men. And that is a group that I put together myself. Other than that, there's not any price. There is a price for this. If you find any type of value, if you glean any nugget of information from this that you can apply to yourself, I ask that you share this episode out. Just all the podcast episodes out that I put out, all the podcatchers that you use. Each of those podcatchers actually have a share button. If you wouldn't mind sharing that, go into the relaxedmale.com/49 and let people who don't normally listen to podcasts come across, and they can come to understand what a podcast is and the value that a podcast shares and the value that all I ask is that you help to grow the audience. Share this episode out, share the show out, share it on Facebook, share it in your Facebook stories, on your Instagram stories, share it with anybody and everybody. Get people talking about this show, and let's see if let's grow this podcast out. And that's the full price of what I'm charging for the show, is just share it. If you find any type of value on it, share it with your friends, families, your followers. Share it on the different social media sites that you are a part of, whether that's Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, or maybe it's some more obscure like Parler or Community or Locals or Mighty Networks, or any places like that. Being able to share that with your group and those that you are living life with would help out tremendously. So let's get this show started. And we're going to start that off with the question of the week. And the question of the week is brought to you by Brotherhood of Men. This is a men's group that I have put together to help us guys become the men we desire to be. Now, this is a group that is based on the mastermind principle. And so it's not something that, where you're going to just get one person's view. You're going to catch views and get help from everybody who's invested into this site and help each other to become the better, stronger, more resilient man who is full of integrity, leads their family in a honorable means. And right now, in all reality, since this group is just starting out, if you're wanting to actually get some really inexpensive one-on-one or nearly one-on-one coaching from me, right now is a great time to do that, because it was right now in all reality. If you would like to have just some one-on-one coaching for an incredibly low price, joining the Brotherhood of Men actually is probably one of the best ways to actually do it right now. Our Thursday evening group has got a lot of different openings available. So I'm taking 12, and it's just right now it's just me and one other guy. We're having every week we have an incredible conversation. We're helping each other to become better, but he's getting coaching for what he wants to achieve. And so it's just me and him. If you would like to jump in and be able to get some near one-on-one coaching for, comparatively little to nothing, I would highly recommend coming in and joining the Thursday evening Brotherhood of Men group. And see what they have to, and see what type of results you find. And as our group grows, we're going to be expanding. I'll eventually be having, 4 different options and 4 different times. There'll be a morning and an evening on Tuesdays and a morning and evening on Thursdays. But if you would like to have the effect of a good mastermind group, recommend jumping in the Thursday evening group and see what happens with your life there. See where you're getting hung up on, and have some unique out of the box ways of being able to go over that obstacle and beat it and become just that much better in your life, that much stronger, that much more prepared for whatever life ends up throwing at you. The Brotherhood of Men is a group that doesn't take any shortcuts. You have to learn the skills needed for you to be able to succeed, but the Brotherhood of Men takes the learning curve and mashes it down a bit. And so if you want to join the Brotherhood of Men, please do go to relaxedmale.com/brotherhood and sign up today. So we have our question of the week, which again, if you are interested in having asking a question and getting some advice for a particular issue that you're having, you can send a message and ask your question by going to relaxedmale.com/contact or relaxedmail, or send an email to Bryan, that's with a Y, at relaxedmail.com. Ask your question. I'll read it aloud here. If you happen to have a website and you want a little bit of extra, have a little bit of Google juice come your way, I'm more than happy to make sure we link that, but just ask a good quality question and I'll give you the answer, and it'll show up. My answer will show up both on the website, and we'll have a discussion on the podcast here. But didn't get a question for this week, so again, turn over to Quora, and Quora's question is by a anonymous person who said, "My mom and I have been getting into fights. We are both tired of it, and always seems to argue. How do I make things good again?" The answer to that is can be can be a little confusing in all reality. There are different actions that this person could actually take. Biggest one is just I would actually recommend that you take control of your actions. Now, assuming that this person who actually asked this question is, someone under the age of 18. Like I said, there's a lot of different, scenarios you can actually take on this, a lot of different actions. But the biggest one is just taking control of those actions, taking control of the elements that you have actual control of. Think of how you would, if you were in this situation, how would you want to be treated? And do that. If you want to be treated with respect, then give respect. If you want to talk rationally and without yelling, then you actually have the choice to not yell when the other person is yelling. And yeah, there's a tendency, there might be, depending on the emotional maturity, and there are adults, there are full grown people who don't have, a very high emotional maturity level. Something doesn't go their way, they blow up, they throw a fit, they start stomping around, they act like, spoiled little brats. But then if the person is emotionally mature enough and they see that you are keeping your tone low and level, then you're going to have the same response. They're going to provide the same response. Use that golden rule. Treat others as you would want to be treated. So if you want to be talked to nicely, then talk to her nicely. She can be angry and upset. Mom can be angry, upset, and yelling and everything else. And if you're just talking like, I know, Mom, I agree. I hear what you're saying. I see what's going on. I agree or I don't agree. And if you talk to them in a respectable manner, whether they want to or not, they start to match that level. Your mom may just be a yeller. She may just have a very loud voice. I have a tendency to, when I get excited and I become passionate about something, I'm really, I'm talking with a lot more, gusto and passion in my voice. And some people take that as me yelling. In all reality, I'm not. I don't even realize I am being louder than normal. I'm just talking about something that really makes me excited. A second point that I would actually make is just take responsibility for your part of the scenario. That is, I heard this question, I don't know how many, I think a week or two ago, and it really sunk in with me. I was listening to a book about finding your passion. And the question that he happened to mention while he was having a student go about saying that he was having problems with someone that he was working with, the author had asked him, and much to the consternation of the person asking, was, well, what was your part in this scenario? And if you actually pay attention to what that question is, that is telling you, well, you had a hand at this too. There's a reason why your mom started arguing and started yelling and started getting upset. And if you take responsibility for those actions that you took, your mom's not going to yell near as much. She says, you didn't take the trash out like you were supposed to. You're right, Mom. I didn't. And I was wrong. And I am going to alleviate that shortcoming right now. And as soon as the conversation is done, make damn sure that that's the first place you go. Even if you're mad at her, she keeps going and blah, 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 it's still, she's still in the red zone. You can actually, as soon as it cools off and where you can actually go and do what you need to do without making it look like you're being disrespectful by just walking away, you can actually then turn around and go downstairs, go grab the trash bag and take the trash out to the dumpster, if you still have dumpsters. The third point was to know that you can't control your mom. And I'll let this person know that her mom has free will just the same as the person asking the question does. There's no way that you're going to make her happy. There's no way that you can make her, if she is just for God forbid, actually emotionally unstable, you can't control that yourself. There's nothing you can do. You can adapt to it. You can go, yeah, okay, mom's gone on a screaming spree again. Just, okay, yes, ma'am. And again, keep your actions to the, on the level that you want to be treated. This can go same, not just with a boss, for your parents, if you are a kid, or even a grown man whose parents just, are always trying to pick fights. But you could also, that also goes into play with your boss and your coworkers. And you may have someone who comes up to you and sees you as a threat and just lights into you every chance they can. Again, you can treat them with respect and understand that you can't control their actions. You can find ways of being able to perform actions so that they don't feel like they're as a threat. You can do those types of actions. You can treat that person with respect. But if even if you're the nicest person in the world to them and they still just are just blah, just jumping all over you, well, there's nothing really you can do about that. Just have to learn how to accept it and find a way of coping with it. And that's all because, and I go into to the point of where, your thoughts generate your emotions. So if you have an event that creates a thought that you're being disrespected, you're going to have an emotion of feeling disrespected. If you actually change, and if she changes how she thinks about that. So if this question asker, again, say he, feels like he's being disrespected by his mom, he can change how he views that. He can make a solid choice of going, well, I was being disrespected, so screw her. Or he can change that thought to go in another way to actually see the situation as something and not have as much of a victim mindset. They're always attacking me. They're always doing this. Well, no, not always, but if you have the right mindset, you're not going to see even an attack as being attack upon you, or an instance of disrespect as being as bad, especially if you don't have a victim mindset, because a victim always never has power, while someone who is not a victim has all their power, has all their agency, and has all their control. So if this person is, 15 or 15 to 18, whatever age it is they are. And I don't even know if it's a boy or a girl that's asking it. But if that's the case, they can actually change how they approach her. You can find ways to be able to show her the needed respect that she wants, or whatever the issue is that's causing all the fights. And if they're going out, sneaking out and doing stuff, wanting to be with their friends, and their mom says no, well, you're going to either have to stop sneaking out or start getting a lot better at how you, sneak out. You're going to get in trouble for going against the rules, which might be a case of why they're getting into fights. Or it could be that, they're grown adults and the mom is throwing a complete total fit about how they're raising their kid. Maybe they raise their kids in the exact opposite of how she was raised, or how she raised them, and she sees that as being wrong. She sees that as being a threat upon her parenting style. And so you can actually approach those types of scenarios with love and compassion and understanding, and develop the respect that's needed. Now, it could also be a case of where, if you're a grown adult, you may end up having to just set down boundaries. It's like, Mom, we're not going to be fighting anymore. If you raise your voice, I'm going to tell you I love you dearly. We will talk next week, and may have to either hang up the phone or, show her to the door and go, I love you, but we'll try next week, and then stick to it. There's a lot of different ways that you can handle that. People who are always getting into fights, there's usually a reason why they're always fighting, especially if you own your dirt, you take responsibility for what you've done and your actions, that those fights become a lot less. And with that, now let's go ahead and let's jump on over to the main topic. And the main topic is, first, empty your cup. Now, I gave you the story that we're basing that kind of set all this up. And we have, especially in today where we are so opposingly charged against ourselves, no matter whether you are on one side or the other. doesn't matter. We're not talking politics. But we have so many people who are screaming at each other and they're not ready to learn. And the reason why they're not ready to learn, they're not going to learn, is because they're approaching the problem with a full cup. And there's some lessons that you can actually learn from having the ability to actually empty your cup. Now, what is your cup? Your cup can be a couple different things. It could be your mind. You can, your mind you may have just, you may be a right winger and you just think everything that the left is doing is completely and totally wrong. Or you may be a left winger who just thinks everything to the right is absolutely totally wrong. But if you sit down and you actually talk to each other, yeah, you've got two different routes that are actually going. Now, I'm not talking about the extremes, on the extreme sides. I'm not talking about the people who are sitting there, who are offended and want to burn everything burn all the buildings to the ground and steal everything. And I'm not talking about the people on the right extreme who are, just wanting to, who are, wanting just absolute and total control. I'm not talking about those sides. I'm not talking about those who want to walk around and make sure, and enforce their will upon other people. I'm talking about, when I talk about left wing, right wing, politically speaking, we both sets of people in all reality actually want the same thing for the country. Just how they get to that goal, to that end point for their country are just two different routes. But this can also be for stuff in the family, how you raise your kids. Or maybe you have you're having problems in your marriage. And so you're going to a counselor. That counselor may have some great and incredible ideas, but you're not going to apply them if you have a cup that's full. And I was told by a very smart woman that you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. And because of that, you should listen twice as much as you speak. And so if you ever want to come to the understanding of somebody, empty your cup by just listening more. You don't have to talk. You don't have to. I believe it is Benjamin Franklin who said, it is better to be thought a fool and not say anything than to open your mouth and remove all doubt. You can listen without actually injecting what your thoughts are. Now, there are places in that conversation that, yeah, you can actually, throw in what your 2 cents are. You can give your input or how you see a problem that is happening or a problem with one person's approach onto a particular issue. We have that a lot with the Brotherhood of Men. One member will have an issue and we'll sit there, we'll talk about it, and I'll throw in what I believe could be a solution. And he then may turn around and say, well, that could work, but there's this, and this. There's these other obstacles in the way. I wouldn't know about those other obstacles if I was just wanting to just say my way is the right way and you should be doing it this way. And if you don't, and that's one reason why you never should on somebody. We should actually, and I know I just said it, but we should actually be trying to remove the word should from our vocabulary. That word does nothing more than to make our defenses come up. Well, you should do it this way. Well, screw you, Jack. I'm going to do it my way. That's how we respond when people walk up and they should on us. I make it a point to not should on people. And if I catch myself saying, well, you should, or we should, or there's this should, I try to correct myself. Sometimes the should comes out and I don't even catch it. And sadly, I don't correct it when I do see it, but I don't even try to should on myself for the same reason. You have a reactive, response to that particular word, but you can fill your cup up with other people's information and you can digest it after they have allowed you filled your cup up. But if you've already got your cup full of your own biases, your own particular thoughts, you're not going to allow that other person to share their knowledge with you. And so that it helps if you actually just empty your cup and allow that person to share their information. Now, another one is to empty out all preconceived notions. Now, those, again, that kind of goes in with the 2 ears and 1 mouth section. But as with the university professor, he thought he already knew everything. He knew what was needing to be done, and he was trying to learn about the way of Zen, and he wasn't able to because he already had these preconceived notions that this was just a philosophy and there was nothing to be, he was just getting information, wasn't actually learning. And a lot of times we approach a situation as if we are already knowing what's going to happen. We have these preconceived ideas, these thoughts that this is going to go badly. This is going to be just an absolute mess. And we go in there with these preconceived notions, and we don't empty out our cup to learn, come to understanding. And also that allows for the laws of attraction to come into play, so that if you think something bad's going to happen, well, guess what? Yeah, you're right. Something bad's going to happen because you've already got a preconceived notion that something bad's going to happen, instead of setting back and seeing what's actually going on. We like to point fingers way more times than actually need to be. And every time you point a finger, there's 3 more pointed right back at you. That saying has more meanings than you're pointing out your shortcomings. It also means that a lot of times you're guilty of the exact same thing you're doing. Those accusations, if you're not careful, are going to be pointed back at you. You come at something in a judgmental mindset, well, you're going to be judged on that same scale. So try to empty out those preconceived notions. Now, and another way that people don't empty out their cup is when they are these people who just are professional. There are the professional conference goers. There are those people, you probably know somebody who has 100 books on how to start a small business, but yet he has never started a small business. I'm still learning. Those people who aren't applying that knowledge. Knowledge does you no good if you don't apply it. If you're not going to try to learn how to become whatever it is you're wanting to do, you're never going to get there until you apply the lessons and the knowledge and the information that you have acquired. I'm trying to get out and talk to more people. That's actually kind of that's a good size hurdle to jump over, believe it or not. And this is coming from someone who likes to talk to people, but I like to talk to people on a very, high level, surface level type of conversation, trying to dip below that conversation level, that surface level into something a little bit deeper. That's where I have a hang up. I want to talk about, I'd love to be able to talk to people about what they're up to, what are their hopes and dreams and things like that. But that's just something you can't do or it's very difficult to do when you're standing in a grocery line waiting to, pay for the stuff that's in your buggy. If you are able to have conversations with people on a repeated basis, you're able to build a little bit more trust, and you can then start asking those questions that peel back the different layers so that you get to the actual root of the problem, and come to understand what their struggles are and how to actually be able to coach somebody through that. So I have to apply what I've learned, apply the lessons of better communication skills, apply the lessons of how to strike up conversations with anybody. Reading a book right now about 92 different ways to hold a conversation. You're thinking, wow, that's a really basic book. Most people know how to have conversations. Interestingly, you ever try to have a conversation at a gathering, and it's like, hey, what do you do? Oh, well, I work in the oil field. Oh, really? So what do you do in the oil field? Well, I'm a hot shot. Oh, okay. So what does that entail? Oh, I'd go to a to a company. I get a load of pipe, and then I run it out to a drilling rig. Oh, okay. Well, that's interesting. Yeah. Oh, hey, look, there's someone over there. I'm going to go talk to those folks. And you kind of, you may do very surface stuff, but to get in there and to start really having very meaningful conversations, that's a tricky thing to actually do. And that's what I'm learning so that I can apply and become the better conversation type of person. And I've applied those because How to Win Friends and Influence People talks about by Dale Carnegie. I had to think for a second. I was like, I wasn't sure. Was that Dale Carnegie or the Stephen Covey? Stephen Covey did 7 Habits. By Dale Carnegie, he talks about one of the best ways to have a great conversation, to have people feel that they have a great conversation is just get them to talk about themselves. And that's something I can do. I try to get them to talk about themselves. And sadly, I run out of questions. I can sometimes get them to really get going, but there's those who are very reserved and don't care to share. And it's pulling teeth, man. It gets tough, but you have to apply what you learn before you take on any more. You have to apply and learn, and that drains your cup so that you can take on more knowledge. When you apply the information, it becomes a skill. That skill gets stronger. It becomes like a muscle, and that skill becomes better and stronger and more resilient and easier to use. And as you do that, then you can actually start working on other parts of your body. So you may start out with arms, but eventually you're going to have to start working on your legs or your chest. There's other muscles. You can't just sit there and lift weights all the time and have, thinking that having these great big old huge biceps and then have little chicken legs. It doesn't work that well. So you want to apply what you take on first. As you go through your day, and you have conversations with people, especially as as this is coming out, election has left. So you're going to have one side or the other is going to be, in complete and total emotional disarray. And you're going to have to approach them with an empty cup and let their thoughts go and not approach that with a full cup and think that you're helping. You can only help when a person can pour their life into your life. All right. So with that, I want to go ahead and let's wrap this up. I want to thank you so much for listening. If this is your first time listening and you've made it this far, I appreciate you tremendously, man. If you are wanting to catch these podcast episodes each week as they come out, where I'll release them every Thursday, you can do so by subscribing to any of your podcatchers of choice. I have got plenty of means of doing so. You can go to relaxedmail.com/subscribe, and I have all the different ways you can also do a search in your podcatcher of choice. I know I show up in many different types of podcatchers out there. I am in Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. You can find me in Spotify, and that's great. If you listen to me on Spotify, that's awesome. I think you probably would have a better experience if you listen to me through, Apple Podcast or Overcast or Castbox or, Pocket Cast. Pocket Cast is available on both Android and iOS. And I have to give a quick shout out to all of my listeners who listen to me over on Ghana. This is actually a streaming app that is out of India. And so primary listeners are of Indian descent. And dude, it rocks. Just how many people over in India who listen, people who listen through Ghana are actually doing that and listening in Ghana. But I'm available over on Breaker, Podbean, Swoot, which is Pod Hero now, Castro, Radio Public, Good Pods, Hypercatcher. You can I've got a link there that will automatically subscribe you to Hypercatcher, Bullhorn. I'm even over on Amazon Music. So I try to get to as many different places as I possibly can. And you can do so with a single click and bring my page up and click subscribe through there, and I'll be in your podcatcher of choice. And if not, then I also make it very easy for you to get my RSS feed. And so be able to put that there. I'm also Deezer, Pandora, iHeartRadio, Blueberry directory, Stitcher, Android, TuneIn. I mean, I try to be I try to apply be everywhere. You can find me in just about any place. And if you come across a place that you're not, that I'm not, and you haven't been able to find me, let me know. And I will make sure to get just, listed into that particular directory. And you can do that. Shoot me a message over at Bryan with a Y at relaxedmail.com. So guys, with that, I want to go ahead and let you go. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe, leave rating and review either over at podchaser.com or on, if your app of choice has a rating and review system on it, then go ahead and leave a rating and review there. It lets me know how many people are actually listening and actually have thoughts of what the show is doing, and it helps out. Puts a little gas in my tank when I see a good rating and review, which is always good for us podcasters. So, guys, with that, I'm going to let you go. Thanks a lot. Remember to approach life with an empty cup, and we will talk to you next week. So, till then, bye.